talking a bit about, firstly about how to start your practice of meditation, and it starts with just, meditation is, it's actually the translation from Tibetan is gom, and it means familiarity. So what we're trying to do is familiarise our mind with positive states. And in meditation, this can work much more deeply than just thinking about it. So you sort of listen to the philosophy, you think about it and make sense of it for yourself, or not. And then you do some meditation. And then that sort of starts to work on your mind. So and in your day-to-day practice, and it's in the prayer with generosity and the other perfections, just with your day-to-day practice, you can just, generosity is a really good way to start working on your mind. So we talked a bit about that in the first week, and how just by being generous with your thoughts and your actions, you're being selfless in that moment, and you start to let go of all of your sort of stresses and anxieties about me. So generosity is a really good thing to do just in your day-to-day, and of course with kindness and compassion. And then we sort of moved into talking about what it is that's making us unhappy, because every being is searching for happiness and not wanting suffering. So what is it that's causing us to suffer? And why can't we get happy? And so then we sort of touched on anger and attachment, and I'll talk a bit more about that tonight. And it's sort of really, we know that these are uncomfortable feelings, but they're instinctive, and we just sort of naturally, we get angry, or we want things to make our lives better, and we get jealous, or we get full of ourselves, full of pride and what have you, and there's just sort of natural ways that we behave, and we're sort of, it's strange because we want to be happy, but all of these states of mind are disturbing, and they're not making us happy, or we would be happy because we do lots of it. So we'd already be super happy if anger got us happiness, and if our clinging attachment got us pure happiness, we'd be super happy because we're very, very good at it. And one of the lamas said we actually can meditate. People say, oh, I can't meditate, I can't focus. We can really obsess about the things we want or the things we don't want. We can focus very strongly on our attachments and aversions, so that our mind is very good at sort of single-pointed, not letting go of things. So we want to use that energy that we have naturally to focus on what does make us happy. And so tonight we'll start with a bit of breathing meditation. And I don't know if we talked about this yesterday. There was a one-day course here yesterday, and it came up in discussion about the monks doing the Walk for Peace in the United States. I don't know if people have seen. Yeah, so a lot of people might have seen. I highly recommend looking it up, either on YouTube or Instagram or something, and they're called Walk for Peace. And it's a group of monks. They're not Tibetan. I'm not sure what
It's supposed to be like bush monks.
No. They're maybe from Thailand. Yeah. But the monk that is leading them was an engineer. So they live in America. They started the walk in Texas, and they walked to Washington, DC. And they did it in 108 days. And 108 is quite significant in Buddhism. Our malas, our prayer beads, have, 108 beads on these. And it's because when you're saying your mantras, it will say, you know, you might say, okay, I'm going to do 100 mantras, and the 8 is 8 bonus mantras to kind of cover any mistakes you've made. So so 108 is sort of significant, and so they did 108 days. So they, you know, it was 100 days plus the 8 bonus days to. I'm assuming that's why it was 108, but you know, I say things sometimes, and it's sort of from my limited experience of this that I might say things. So you really have to check with the lamas if you know, with some of these things. So anyway, they stopped every now and then, and what happened was he talked in the end, and I've seen a couple of interviews. The various TV stations along the way in different states were interviewing them, and in the end, he gave a really big talk in the cathedral in Washington. He was invited by them to speak on the steps of the cathedral, and they had people from all different religious traditions were there as well. And what happened was, he said, I left my house, you know, 108 days ago, thinking I just wanted to do something for peace in the world and for peace for people, with no thought of where it was going to take me. I just wanted to do this walk. And then as they walked along, people got wind of them and came out to see them, and then more people got wind of them and came out to see them, and then they would hear they're coming through our town, and all the people would come out, and it ended up being hundreds of thousands of people along the way, and it's very, very beautiful. And when he speaks, he's so simple. He's got no agenda. He just says, we're walking with mindfulness. And if people want to learn how to have peace in their own lives, you just need to learn some mindfulness meditation. And that was his message the whole way, was just practice mindfulness. And he just said, we're concerned with the outer world, with what's going on around us, with what we need or what we want or what's happening, but we rarely turn inward. And he said, just turn inward and do some mindfulness. And he would stop and do a bit of breathing meditation with people, helping them to focus on their breath. And in the end, he did it again in the end. And you can sort of sit there and do it with them, and it was incredibly beautiful. And he said, they said, in one of the interviews, it was sort of like, you know, does this make you feel good? Does it make you happy that so many people have come out? And there were people along the way handing them flowers and children and stuff, and they would stop and give blessings and hand flowers on to other people, and people would stop and want to talk to them, and they'd stop and they'd talk. And they took their time, and just people were really moved. There were just these crowds of people kind of watching them and feeling the stillness of them, as well as they just walked in a row. There was probably about a dozen of them just walking. And they had a dog with them as well, called Aloka, I think. And he said, yes, in one way it made me happy that people were interested, but I was actually really sad to see so much suffering, and that people coming to us and crying, and they were coming out because they were disturbed and unhappy about what's happening in the world, and they wanted, you know, that's why they came. So he said it was, you know, this really double-edged thing. And he also said there were people that had thanked them and said, I was suicidal and now I feel better, and you know, like they had to. It was extraordinary. And I think the Dalai Lama has recognised it as well. He's come out and said a bit about it. So we'll do a bit of mindfulness meditation. I just thought it's a really nice story, and it's worth sort of checking them out. But just the power, simple power of their sense of peace and happiness within themselves, just walking, and it was palpable to people that They don't need to change. It's very hard to change anything, but you can change your own mind and find some peace within.
How are they getting home? How are they getting home? Are they walking home?
They're actually walking somewhere else now, I believe. He said we're going to keep walking. They had. It's like that, but better, much better. So we'll do a bit of meditation now.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. So people took them in, fed them. They said the generosity of people along the way. They always had somewhere to sleep. They had no expectations when they took off, but people looked after them all the way. So it's a beautiful, a really nice story in this at the moment in the world, and it's drawn a lot of attention, I think. Okay, so we meditate by keeping the spine straight is really good, sort of like coins, stack of coins, so the energy can flow. And the Tibetans have the left hand down and the right hand on top with the thumbs touching, which is a sort of energy thing. And maybe the thumbs just turned inwards towards the belly button slightly. And then just tilt your head forward, not too far forward or you get sleepy, and not too far back or you get distracted. So there's just gently forward, the eyes gently closed, mouth gently, lips just parted maybe, the tongue at the back of the teeth, the top palate. Relax your face, relax your shoulders, and just bringing your mind inwards from all distracting thoughts that are just on the surface of your mind. We'll just go more deeply inwards into the mind, which is this clear space that all your thoughts, all your experiences are just passing through this clear, reflective space. And now just focus in on the breath. You can count the breath. Sometimes helps you to focus if you count 1 in breath and out breath, and then 2. Just letting go of all thoughts and just focusing on the breath for a while. Just letting go of any distracting thoughts and keep bringing your focus back to the breath, which is colourless and formless, like the mind. back to the room. The other thing is Mark, I meant to look up his name. I should have. He said to people, and I think it was the same thing all the way, he said, when you wake up in the morning, how did he put it? He basically said, do not look at your phone. And he said, don't make that the first thing you do in the morning. And then he said, get up, make your bed, nice and neat, and then get a pen and paper. And I've never quite heard this done this way before. And he said, write down, and maybe write it down several times. Today will be my peaceful day. And, you know, I find that quite emotional. And he said, you know, it is, all you have is this moment. The past is gone, the future hasn't happened. All you can hold on to is this moment. So he said, by writing it down, it imprints it. And I think that's true. By writing things, it helps you to remember them. You're seeing it visually, and it helps you. So it's a really nice thing for people to do. Just say, today will be my peaceful day. And so by you being peaceful, by all those people, that changes the world. That literally changes the world. That those people will go out into the world with that thought. Less likely to have angst and antagonism and, you know, grasping. So this is how it works. So now we'll get into some more nitty-gritty, and I thought I'd talk a bit about karma and how it works. And it sort of came up yesterday in the teaching with Geshe Losang, and he has a really nice way of explaining things. But first of all, I'll just talk about some of the... In the teachings, you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper with this stuff, and it's basically teaching the same thing, but in different, lots of ways that help us to understand. And so that it can get very technical and very... you know, it's philosophy, so it has a lot of terms and a lot of language around it, and very technical. But it's, you know, over time, when you sort of get used to it, it makes sense, and it's kind of helpful to know. So I'll just talk about some of the there are, you know, 4 kind of aspects to karma, and there are the results of karma. And I'll talk, I'm sort of using Kathleen MacDonald's book, which I often talk about from this book, and use meditations from here, very simple explanations of things. So the first thing about karma is definite. And I've talked earlier about karma being, it's not this kind of ethereal, magical, you know, waving stick or a wand on you. It's your energy, basically. Karma is translated as action. So it's actions of body, speech and mind. And most of all of our actions of speech and body are driven by our mind. So it's what's happening in your mind that causes you to act in certain ways. So karma is definite, and the correlations between the actions we do and the experiences we have in negative actions will bring problems, not happiness, and positive actions will bring happiness and not suffering. So karma is definite. So whatever actions we do, it's cause and effect. Another way of talking about it is cause and effect. So we understand cause and effect. And a negative action can never have a positive result. And yesterday, Geshe Losang was talking about that. And I know that, a negative karma cannot produce a negative result. A positive result. And a positive karma won't produce a negative result. But his question was, how does it work with the action of killing? Say a butcher making a profit from killing meat, from killing animals to sell the meat, to make a profit. And I answered, because this is, and it would come up in debate, and I said because the action of killing didn't produce the profit, previous action produced the profit. And I could see him laughing because it was a point of debate. The action of killing actually is directly connected to the profit. He killed the meat, sold the meat, and made some profit. And I was like, I'm stumped. And I thought, and then he went into detail and talked about how a karma ripens, how a karma works. So it works through several things happening, and they call it causes and conditions. And so when you plant a seed into some earth, is it just going to grow on its own? You need fairly decent soil in the first place with the microbes and whatever, and the nutrients. You need water and you need sunshine, and maybe someone to take care of it could be another condition. So these are all factors that impact that seed, and without them the seed won't ripen. So when all of these causes and conditions come together, the seed will ripen and grow into a tree that will produce fruit and more seeds. So in the same way, karma is action of our mind, and it's putting imprints onto our mind. And like I was talking last week, sort of nothing is lost. And within our memory we know that nothing is lost, but absolutely nothing is lost. It's imprinted onto your mind. Everything that you've ever done, said or thought is part of your continuum. And we know that everything that's ever happened and everyone we have ever met has had some sort of impact and caused us to behave this way, or helped us to, or not helped us, or made us angry, or da-da-da. And so that everything has an impact on us all of the time. And then that causes the next moment. And that causes habits. We can follow certain trains, and that's why we develop habits, whether good or bad, because we follow them over and over again. And so when the right causes arise, as in, the water, the sunshine, and the temperature, whatever, the seed will ripen. So it's the same with our karmic seeds, our karmic imprints. So that the butcher was a condition. He's not the primary cause, the substantial cause of the karma to ripen. So I was kind of in the ballpark, but the substantial cause of the karma is a previous karma ripening with the condition of the butcher. So the butcher is part of the action, but the karma has come from a previous karma. So the karma to profit from the killing of the meat came from a previous karma on the butcher's mind of generosity, of not killing, of refraining from killing. I'm getting it all backwards. I'm so sorry. I'm getting it totally backwards. It's the... No, yes, it's generosity caused the result of profit.
Wealth.
Yeah, wealth. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. No, it's a previous karma of generosity caused wealth.
How?
But how?
I don't follow that.
Yeah, okay. I'll read the four things about karma. Karma is definite. You cannot get a good result from a bad action, from a bad karma. And karma increases over time, like the tree producing more and more seeds. From one seed you get a lot more seeds. Your habits get stronger, and you know that if you get angry all the time, you're triggered by everything and you get more and more angry. If you keep feeding your anger, it increases. If you keep obsessing over your desires, they increase. So, and if you're jealous all the time, you get more jealous, drives you crazy. So we know that continuing to hold on to actions causes them to increase and become stronger. I know it's tricky. It's really tricky. The other thing about karma is that if we don't do an action, we won't experience the result. So if you're not generous, doesn't matter how many Tatsalotto tickets you buy, the karma's not there for you to win the money. And how does somebody win $80 million? Where did that come from? So it's a very similar thing. I'll get you in a minute. Very similar thing with Tatsalotto. Someone actually did win $80 million, I think last week or the week before. And you think, how the hell? One person there were probably 80 million people bought a ticket that week. And this sort of thinking, this train of thinking Buddhism would say that, again, the buying of the ticket caused that person, is part of the causation of that person, the conditions for that person. If those conditions didn't come together, if they didn't buy the ticket, they wouldn't have won it. So you need the condition of buying the ticket. But the karma to win a lot of money came from generosity, some previous generosity. And in more simple, in a way that we might understand better is if you're kind to someone, they're generally kind back to you. It generally works for you. Kindness can sort of have a flow-on effect of making your life a bit easier. If you get angry with someone, they're going to get angry back at you, and then you get angry back at them and they get angry back at you, and it expands. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I just don't get how an act of generosity feeds
A future
greed.
A what?
An act of greed.
It doesn't.
Like the butcher wanting to profit from the death of an animal.
Yeah.
How does that come from generosity?
The butcher is part of the conditions. He's part of the water and the sunshine and the whatever that ripened the seed from a previous action. It's not from that action.
Yeah.
The action is part of the conditions, and then he was able to sell the meat and profit. But the prime, they call it the prime cause, the main cause for him to profit was a previous act of generosity. The conditions for the profit was the killing. If you don't buy the ticket, you won't win the money. If he didn't kill the animal, he wouldn't have made money off of it. But the actual karma to make money, karma is different from the act, the causes and conditions.
It might have been like a mother octopus in his past life that gave up its body for all its offspring.
Yes.
And it was that act of generosity that resulted in...
That's right. So at some point, the fellow over here is saying, for the camera, is saying that it might have been a mother octopus that gave up her body to protect her baby children. I mean, any animal that will die to defend their offspring. And maybe he, you know, in a previous life or in this life, he actually donates money. He is quite generous. Doesn't mean that you're not a generous person. So he's probably been generous in other areas. And it's those karmas which are different to the causes and conditions. It's tricky, I know. But this is how they try to explain why bad things happen to good people and why good things happen to bad people. You know, this is sort of it's kind of explaining how this all works. And you know, Buddhism, the philosophy talks about previous lives, and the fact that the basis of thinking for that is that this moment of me being here sitting talking came from a series of previous moments. From the first day I walked in here 30 odd years ago has led to this moment of me sort of talking about Buddhism now. So all of your previous moments, and that's only just 30 years, they say that and there are meditations for this as well, that if you follow your mind backwards through your life, you can remember parts of your childhood, and then you might not be able to remember your early childhood, but you know that you were born, you were in the womb, that you were conceived, and then this mind, you kind of think, well, it didn't just come from nowhere. It's not the sperm and the egg. And then you go forwards to your death, and you think, you know, eventually this is all going to shut down, and my mind, you know, might go through some stress, might be at peace, depending on, you know, where you're at and stuff. And then you go through the last moments of life, and they have a lot of descriptions about death, about what happens at the time of death, which sounds a bit spooky, but in fact is quite comforting to actually have a sense, rather than go into it blind with absolute fear, to have kind of studied the process and meditated on the process and have some preparation for these moments is really cool. It's actually quite powerful. It also helps you to try and make the most of every moment when you think about your death. It's very hard for, you know, to start thinking about it, but in our society we never talk about it. We don't confront this thing we will be confronted with eventually. And so by talking about it makes it more comfortable. For me personally, that's how I found it. It makes it much more comfortable. And, you know, I'm of a certain age, I've seen a few deaths and have actually gone through things with my family, and I've actually found that this has been incredibly helpful in those moments, really powerfully helpful. And to watch some of the members of my family not dealing, you know, everyone deals with it differently, and it's really hard. But I have been sort of quite thankful that I've had some kind of framework or perspective. So anyway, you go through the moment of your death, and when you do this meditation, it's like, well, this moment, this moment, this moment, and then it's like, there must be a next moment. My mind is not my body. Yes, the body's going to shut down, but the mind continues. And for me, you know, reincarnation was tricky when I first started with all of this, but now, having done these meditations, I'm a bit more comfortable with it. Just because it's not part of Western society, you know, we say, oh, that's an Eastern thing. But when you kind of contemplate it and think about it and look at some of the meditations and think more about it, it actually starts to make more sense than not, than just everything stops, because it just doesn't make sense that there's not a next moment, because the mind is not the body. And it sort of doesn't make sense that it just sprang out of nowhere. Nothing comes from nothing. Where did the first moment of mind come from? And nothing becomes nothing. Our mind is a form of energy, so it doesn't become nothing. We know that no energy is lost. So anyway, that's food for thought as well, but it tries to help with this process of karma, that therefore we're carrying all these seeds that we don't even know sort of about. And it's a sort of an explanation about why bad things happen to good people. Why do children get sick? You know, like you just sort of, really awful things happen and you just... So there's some sense that we all carry the seeds for we've done terrible things. We all carry the seeds for we've done powerfully good things. And this theory would actually say the fact that we're all here in this country in our reasonably good conditions means that we've all been generous and done ethical things to have actually landed in our current situation. Even if it's difficult, when you look at the world, it's not. It could be, more difficult. But so this is the result of good karma. And Buddhism would say this is the result of extremely good karma, that you're actually here listening to this now. How rare is it to have the opportunity to sort of think about these things and to have contact with this philosophy. Not to say that you have to sort of take it. And as Dalai Lama says, if it makes no sense, throw it out. If it's rubbish to you, then that's fine. But take what works for you as well. Yeah, and the last thing, karma's never lost. So it's always kind of working there. Now, then, as I said last week, we have the purification practices. And I'll talk a little bit more to that and then decide what sort of meditation we might finish with. I'll just say, tell you about my morning today. I've retired, but I do a little bit of CRT work, relief teaching work. And so if I don't get a call, that's a good day. I don't have to go to work. So I thought this morning, because it's going to be hot, I'll go out for a walk, sort of a little bit early while it's cool. And then I thought, I'll go down to this cafe down on the river that's got a nice view and it's quite pleasant. So I took off and I started thinking, it's already getting a little bit warm, so I'll walk on the shady side of the street, and that was nice. And got to the cafe, and that was nice. And I ordered, they have these really nice cups in this cafe. They're sort of ceramic, slightly off kilter, lovely dark green glaze on them, and they're nice, and they make nice coffee, and it's quite a large cup. So I ordered the coffee, and I ordered a large. It was my first coffee for the day, and then went and sat. And there's a bit of an angle that's on a terrace and looks over the river, and I sat down and I thought, the sun's coming over the trees. It's better if I sit there, so I changed my position and sat there. And then she came out with a takeaway cup, like a large takeaway cup. And as she walked towards me, I said, I didn't order a takeaway. And because, I'm looking forward to this nice cup. And she said, yes, we don't do large. We only have kind of one size of cup. And I didn't know that, because normally you do want a small or a large one. And I said, I didn't realise. And she said, I can go off and make you another one. I said, no, it's fine. I'll just take it as... I said, it's just that this is waste. I didn't want a takeaway cup. It's waste. And I was, going to have a nice... So she said, the girl was new and she didn't know. And I said, no, that's fine. I'll just have this one. That's fine. Thinking. And just knowing, I will never send food back. I don't complain in restaurants or anything like that. But this was a little bit more complicated because I didn't want the waste of the takeaway cup was part of the issue as well. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and just having to drink out of this takeaway cup, and I didn't have my nice cup, you know, but I'm sitting there looking at the view thinking, oh my God. And then I said, look at your mind, Claire, you know, like you're going nuts over this. And I was thinking, I can't let this go, you know, like I can't believe this happened. And I thought, just look at yourself. And I thought, you could go and teach some meditation tonight, just practice what you preach kind of thing. And so I thought, right, what am I going to do? And I thought, okay, I'll do this. I started thinking, and then I thought, good Lord, this isn't it. This is worse than first world problems. You know, like there are people that, you know, I'm sitting that would have no opportunity to do what I'm doing right at the moment, and stop your whinging in your head. And then I thought, right, just do some of this purification. And so I did. I sat there and I did a bit of breathing meditation and breathed in the light and breathed out the negativity. And immediately I felt better. It just immediately felt better. And I thought, right, that's really good. And then I thought, I'll take it next level and do a bit of Tonglen. And we might have a look at Tonglen tonight, because it's another. Every meditation is a form of purification of negative seeds that we have. And when you think about your negativities, you don't have to think just about the ones that you can remember. You can say, I'm purifying all my negativities. From beginningless time, I'm purifying everything while I'm doing this purification practice. And there's nothing that can't be purified. And in the scriptures they talk about, you know, a fellow that killed 999 people, and he purified everything and became enlightened in that one lifetime. So there's nothing that can't be purified. So then I started a bit of this Tonglen, and that is the reverse sort of meditation, where you know, when you breathe in the suffering, and this is tricky for people as well, but you completely destroy it. It's completely disintegrated in your heart, and then you breathe out all of the love and compassion and positive, anything that anyone wants, whether it's everyone can have a nice coffee in a nice cup. You know, you can breathe that out to the world. You can breathe out whatever anybody wants. Health, wealth. You can think about people that need things. You can breathe that out in a form of light, and it lands on those people. You can do it with individuals, you can do it with all beings. So it's a beautiful practice, and I did some of that and I felt much, much better, and was able to enjoy my coffee. So, you know, it worked for me. And I was much more conscious this morning because I knew I had to come in tonight, so I've got to sort of, you know, make sure it works. And it did work for me. And then a kookaburra landed on a tree right near me. Oh, sorry, before the kookaburra, it might have been before or after the meditation, I'm not sure. A woman showed up with a baby in a pram and a child. Now, it had been very peaceful sitting there, and there were a couple of people sitting over there chatting. There were not many people there. The terrace was fairly empty. There were a couple of other tables. And then this woman showed up going, here we are. And then she said, and she was doing sort of baby talk to her daughter, and she's going, beware of the snakes. And she's reading this sign on the side of it's by the river. So there's actually, you know, the beware of snakes signs down by the river. And she's going, oh, here we go. And she's sort of like, oh, you know, we've arrived and we're at the cafe and let's go over here and seriously. And so I was like, I'm trying not to look and trying not to glare, really, you know, and just thinking, wow, I'm going like, oh my God, the coffee and my takeaway cup and all this. And then I got bitten by an ant. And there was an ant crawling at my leg and it bit me on the knee. So I had an ant biting me, and I was just going, wow. And so, and then I thought, this is it. This is life. This is how it goes. You know, I've come down here for a peaceful morning coffee, and all this stuff's going down, and my head is going mental. And then I just thought, yeah, this is what it's like. This is life. This is how it goes. And there's just one thing after another after another. And then I did this meditation, and it really, really helped. And I was able to kind of just let it all be and understand that life is suffering. It really is. And then the kookaburra landed. And my first thought was the child would be really interested in this. So I turned around, they weren't looking at me. And then it jumped to another branch, and it was, I think it was after food. And so it was sitting on this branch. And then I thought, oh, I'll go over and I'll tell them I finished my coffee and I'm leaving. And so I just sort of went over and said, excuse me. And she looked at me and said yes, with this sort of waiting for what was coming. And I said, look, there's a kookaburra on the branch over there, and I thought your daughter might be interested. And she said, thank you so much, thank you. And she grabbed her little girl and they went over, and of course it had flown off and they didn't get to see it. But she was so thankful to me. And so, you know, it's just bizarre. It's just the way it all worked. And then I felt really happy. You know, I felt sort of good about doing something nice rather than saying to her, could you keep your voice down, please? So anyway, and then when I was walking home, and it's really nice, but the sun had come out, so I had to avoid the sun, you know, I don't like being in the strong sun. So, you know, it's never quite right. And it was a lovely morning, I had a really nice morning. But there was all of that messed up in amongst it. And that's how life goes. But the meditation definitely brought my mind back into a place of just okayness with it all. So, the other thing I was going to do, I've got a bit of notes from Geshe Losang's teaching yesterday, but I think I might have covered what I was going to say. Yeah, he just sort of talked about karma, and yeah, mostly what I was saying, but there's things like the different results that can come as well, and so he talked about stealing, and then you can have an environmental result of maybe living in a place where people steal and exploit each other, and you're poor, your environment is poor, and the people around you are poor. Could be a result from stealing. The result, similar to its cause, is it becomes a habitual thought of stealing. So the results of stealing are that you will do more stealing as well. So, and the ripening result, the primary result is poverty, and that you will be, you know, living in these environments. I think the environmental anyway, you don't need to know the details of what sorts, but you will live in it. You know, stealing causes poverty, basically. The ripening result will be poverty. But it's the same, if you steal something, you might get the benefits from stealing it. But part of the the result of that is that you worry about being getting caught. You worry that someone might have seen you, so it creates a whole other set of results in your mind as well. But, you might benefit from it for a while, but when that piece of karma of that action ripens again, it could result in someone stealing from you or just poverty, very difficult, to actually make money. So that's kind of just thoughts that go on around it as well. Now, are people comfortable to do this Tonglen meditation? Is there anyone?
Comment to make?
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, there was a question over there earlier as well. Ingrid, would you mind if?
No.
Yeah.
I think you can't answer it, but I was wondering what kind of influence we have over past karma. Is it through purification, so that's the influence we have over reshaping and that.
Exactly.
And that comes with meditation and that's just keep
Yeah.
purifying the mind, and that can get rid of even the worst type of karma.
Yeah. So the question was, can we purify, can we get rid of karmas? Is that right? Yeah.
What influence do we have?
Yeah, what influence, what power do we have, what influence do we have to purify karma? And I'd say the major influence that you have is regret, is a major issue. You can, like I grew up Catholic, you go to confession, blah, 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 say your Hail Marys and you're out the door. And you didn't really think about it, and you sort of, by generating genuine regret for previous actions is almost a purification in itself. And then you turn your mind towards where you want your mind to be. And we call that refuge. It's like you turn your mind maybe to the Buddha, but we have a thing called inner refuge. Your future purified state. Like by doing all of these practices in future, your mind will become better and better and better and purified, and you can completely purified. So you can turn your mind towards that as well. And then you might do, the meditation in itself is a kind of make-up activity, a sort of, they don't use the word penance, but it's sort of like that, you can do something to, where have I put it? To remedy. To sort of, you say, okay, I'm doing this meditation, purification meditation, to kind of, as some kind of remedy, which will purify the seeds, purify my mind of these habits, of this karma. And then you sort of resolve not to do it again. And, some things might occur again, lying, I don't know. But, some things that we find difficult to kind of not necessarily do them again, or that it comes up and we do it again. I read a really nice thing. It was Lama Geshe saying, in that moment when you're sort of saying to yourself, well, I resolve not to get jealous or angry or whatever it is you're trying to, I really resolve to not do that again. In that moment, you really want to not get angry. In that moment, you really want to not be jealous. But you kind of know it's probably going to happen. But you would really like to kind of lessen these things so that in the resolve, it's not like, okay, I promise never to get jealous again, and of course it comes up and I've broken my promise. It's not like that. You haven't. It's just in this moment, I would really like, to try not to be that person or do that thing again. And I thought, oh, that's kind of a really nice way of looking at it. Because of course we're not perfect. Right. Where have I put it? We'll do this quickly, and I'll just take you through it, if I can find it. I know I put this in here somewhere. Oh, I have to look it up. So are there any other questions while I do this? Sorry, Ingrid.
I was going to say, going back to that first example with the butcher and the killing, and then the money that he made being a result of the previous generosity, and the killing in this instance being a condition of that generosity. It's important, I think, also to say that the action of the killing will have a future result, which relates to the killing, which is rebirth in the lower realm, or shortened lifespan as well. So it's not like it
doesn't end there.
Doesn't end there. Yeah.
So the comment was that the action of the butcher killing the animal and getting profit from it, and that previous karma of the action was the condition for the karma of profit, of getting money. But that's just, without the killing you wouldn't have made the profit, but that's just a condition for that karmic seed to ripen. But the primary cause for that karmic seed to ripen as money was previous generosity. Now, what Ingrid's saying, and I forgot, is that the action of killing has now just planted new seeds on his mind of the action of killing. And they actually say that the karma of killing is being born in the lower realms, or in a very unpleasant situation, or being killed. And what was the other part of that? It just plants more seeds to kill again as well, to develop the habit of killing in future lives. So
yeah, I think so. And it's not just one thing causes one thing; it's all interrelated, and it's all happening, interwoven all at the same time.
Yeah, it's not just one thing causing one thing. So it's a lot of. There would have been a lot of things happened to bring the butcher to the point of killing the animals. There's sort of all sorts of reasons why he was there. Maybe
he won't be killing it because, for example, his family may need to eat.
That's right. His family may need to eat, so that's why. Yeah. So he's getting. It's the same as getting the profit. His family will. He can look after his family with the money that he makes. So he gets all of the karmic seeds from that as well, from looking after his family. So it's not just one, you haven't got just one karma going on, you've got all of them going on. So he's helping his family, he's making money, but he's also creating the causes for... and by the act of killing, he's planted a seed for when the circumstances arise, he might be in a war zone and get killed. Or he might how many ways are there to die? He could get killed in any number of ways. And that would be the circumstances of the bullet would be the condition, but the dying is the ripening of the karma, and then being reborn, maybe in a lower realm. But depending on what the state of the mind at the time of death as well, that's another important thought. Is depending on the state of mind at the time of death, you can be reborn. If he's thinking of love of his family, then the next moment will be love after he's died. But if he dies in the act of killing an animal and happy that he's killed it because he's going to make some money, then that will be his next moment. So depending on his state of mind at the time of death as well. Yes.
I watched the electrician today get attacked by a bunch of wasps.
Yeah.
There was a wasp nest where he was working and they came out and they got very cross at him, beat him all over.
Oh.
Yeah, he was pretty unhappy about
This,
it.
the fellow's saying that he watched an electrician get attacked by a bunch of wasps
So
and
I
he was
came along
bitten all
and
over.
I killed the wasp nest. But now I'm not going to get hit, am I?
Really tricky with insects, yes. They are, you know, really, really tricky. I would say, who is it for me to say? But this philosophy would say, on the one hand, you're trying to help the man and help other people not get attacked by wasps, but on the other hand, you've killed all of these insects. So if you want to take this seriously, then you would generate some regret for that action and purify it and pray for those insects. And that's another thing about meat, is, eating meat. The Lamas eat meat, the Tibetans eat meat, because they come from the mountains. You can't grow a lot of vegetables up there. But to them, a lot of insects die in growing vegetables through just digging. Pesticides, you're killing worms, you're killing insects. So all of our food involves killing. So they don't really distinguish between a big furry, doe-eyed critter and a worm. A worm wants to stay alive, it will feed. It has a nervous system, it feels pain. They don't really distinguish. So that if you are eating meat, then you actually thank the animal. There's prayers. You offer your food and you're thankful for your food, and you pray that the animal will have a good future rebirth. So you can do that. You can pray for those wasps. And it sounds funny, I know. And when you first come around this sort of thinking, it is odd. But they are sentient beings. They feel fear and pain. They would have suffered, and their continuum will continue on. They will be reborn in some form or other. So you can pray for their future rebirth. Now this is kind of like, this is Monday night, we're learning meditation, so I'm getting into some of the deeper sort of thinking, which you can, as the Dalai Lama says, if you can throw it out if you're not comfortable with it, if it's not working for you. But it's a really nice way to work with your mind, actually, because then it just puts your mind into this positive space of not wanting to harm. Whether, you just don't want to harm. And then, so you're not killing insects and what have you. And it makes your mind more peaceful and less harmful. And so it's working on your mind. It's not even so much about the insects as where your mind is at with it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a way of thinking, it's a way of looking at the world. And it helps you to be more peaceful. Like the monk was saying, you write down, this will be my peaceful day. And that's what we all want. And this helps to generate peace in your mind. So I'm not going to do this meditation. We'll do a nice little purification meditation, I think. And maybe next week we'll look at Tamlin, but we don't need to. Doesn't matter, we'll do something. Okay, so just sitting comfortably. Take a few minutes just to settle your mind, bring your mind inwards. It's like Ed was describing yesterday in meditation, that our thoughts and activities are like on the surface of an ocean. They're just like waves and ripples and, bumps on the surface of the ocean. And they can be disturbed or calm, but they're just on the surface. And then when you go deeper into the ocean, it's always calm. It's just still and calm as you go inwards. So just take yourself deeper into your mind. And we'll bring to mind a beneficial reason as to the motivation for doing the meditation, such as wishing to become more free from negative energy so that you can be more helpful and less harmful to others. And just bring your attention to your breath. Breathing out normally and observe the full duration of every inhalation and exhalation. Now imagine that when you exhale, when you inhale, so imagine when you inhale, all the positive energy in the universe enters your body in the form of pure, blissful, radiant white light. Visualize this light flowing to every part of your body, filling every cell and atom, and making you light, relaxed, and blissful. This white light is filled with all the love, wishing yourself and all beings to be happy, completely filling your whole body. All the compassion for yourself and for all other beings, completely filling your body with this blissful white light, radiating out through every cell. Do this visualization with every inhalation, breathing in all this positive energy. Then begin to breathe out dark smoke with every exhalation. Imagine that all your negative energy, past mistakes, distorted conceptions, and disturbing emotions leave your body with the breath in the form of dark smoke or fog. This smoke goes out into space where it disappears completely. It's not going out into the environment, it's just dissipating, completely disappears and becomes non-existent. Feel confident that you have freed yourself of every trace of faults and negativity. Concentrate on this experience, breathing out the dark smoke of your problems and breathing in the white light of good energy. And when you're distracted by thoughts or other experiences, simply observe them without reacting or getting involved. And you can also transform these distractions into dark smoke and breathe them out into oblivion. So we conclude the meditation by dedicating our positive energy, all your positive energy, to all beings, finding everlasting happiness and peace of mind. And just bring your mind back to the room.